So good morning. Good morning. It's really good. It's like the first week was sort of a low week, and then since then, the masses have showed up, which is really neat. So we'll start with prayer, and which we always do, and Candy has a new role, which every time we have a meeting now, Candy will open with prayer.
Welcome, everybody. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Companion God, we are on a journey, one that is unsure and uncertain, one that is new and filled with possibilities, one that fills us with fear, worry, curiosity, and hope. Keep us mindful of those around us and the many ways people will express their sorrow and anxiety. Keep us patient as we move forward into uncharted waters, new for us, but a timeless journey. Keep us bold as we dare to imagine a different way forward, remembering the needs of our community and our interconnected world. Be with us today and every day as we make difficult decisions together with each other and with the Spirit as our guide. Amen.
Candy does wonderful things for us. She keeps the board on the straight and narrow, takes minutes, and does our newsletter every 2 weeks. It was her birthday yesterday. And I just thought we could sing happy birthday to Candy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Candy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
39. I thought all the cookies were gone. Brad, we have a seat for you here. So today, we're going to present what we heard, but not 3 pages of verbatim response. It's more of a directional summary of what we heard. So the board got together after the Tuesday Zoom, and we talked for a while about what we'd heard, and then Jeff kindly agreed to summarize 3 pages into themes. So he did that for us, and that wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do, but he did a nice job on it. So he's going to present them and go through them. And then we're going to give you, wouldn't be table talks if you didn't get a chance to talk, we're going to give you 15 minutes to just sort of talk about it. Did we hear? Is there something in general, not specific, something in general we missed? And at the end of 15 minutes, if there's feedback from any of the tables, we'll take notes and update the list to make sure that we've got it right. So it's directional. You won't find too many specifics in it. And when we get feedback, specifics, I'll put it this way, we're not really looking for specifics. But if you feel you really want to say it, go ahead, because it's your time. So Jeff, we will, while he's starting and gets going, we'll hand out the same thing he's reading to you, because I know if you're like me, you like to read and listen at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you, Harold. I'm Jeff, for those of you that don't know. Just want to first and foremost thank everyone for A, being here today, but B, being engaged throughout the last 3-4 weeks in this process. I think it says a lot about where we are as a congregation in terms of the just the overall turnout and willingness to be part of this conversation. I think it gives myself and other members of the board really feelings of strong promise moving forward that this many people want to be part of the conversation continuously, and it helps to validate for someone like me that that it's absolutely worth my time and energy to continue to take a leadership role with the church. So first and foremost, just want to say thanks for that. So as Harold said, we had a chance to comb through all of the commentary that was left at the conclusion of last week's session here in person, and then we met again, or we opened up again another opportunity virtually on Tuesday night for anyone who wasn't able to join us last week. And collectively, we kind of came to the conclusion that several themes kind of popped out to us. And so I'll review those with you now, and then as Harold said, we're going to take a little bit of time and allow you in groups at your tables to further validate that information, to further validate that what we believe that we're hearing is in fact what we're hearing, because none of us want to move forward in any way, shape, or form without being absolutely certain that that we're on the same journey that we believe that you're all on with us together. So, in no particular order did we write this out, but I'll just go through them one at a time. So, in general, we definitely feel like there is acknowledgement that we no longer, as a congregation, have the financial or human resources that we would need to continue forward the way that we have been. I think part of the reason that we wanted to go through this this process of revalidating our prior thinking by engaging an organization like TCF is that we know the last few years have, for better or worse, changed a lot of things about our world here at St. Paul's and about the world in general. And so when we made certain decisions 3+ years ago, or we set forth on a particular direction, that was without the benefit of knowing that something like a global pandemic would be around the corner, and that would, not to say that that's the only thing that has caused things to change, but it's certainly something that we can't overlook in terms of what it has changed both for us here at St. Paul's and for the world around us. So I think there's general acknowledgement amongst the people of St. Paul's that we no longer have the financial or people resources to continue doing what we're doing today. That the building itself, this building, the gym, the sanctuary, whatever you want to qualify as the building, that isn't what defines us as St. Paul's United Church, okay? It's about a lot more than that. There's acknowledgement, of course, from everyone that where we are today is different than where we found ourselves three years ago. And what we heard again and again through the commentary that we saw was that there is acknowledgement that we need to react accordingly to the world around us. That we are not a stubborn bunch in the sense that we absolutely want to try and make a square peg fit into a round hole. That's not what we heard coming out of the feedback. What we heard was that people do feel like we should be reacting and going where the world is taking us. But in doing so, we remain invested in and committed to our mission of connect, engage, transform, and that we want that mission to be central in any decisions that we make. That we are not at this point interested in abandoning that mission in order to make one decision over another. We want to be led by that mission towards whatever decisions we make going forward. We're not a group that's interested in just surviving, right? We're not interested in just surviving for another 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever number of years you want to put on it. We're a group of people who want to thrive and understand that may exist in new and different ways, whether that is from a location perspective, whether that is from a partnerships perspective, either with other churches, with other community partners, but we are a group of people who feels very strongly, just like we do about our mission, that we want to build and sustain a legacy that may hopefully far outlive any of us, right? And I put myself in that category. My hope is that that whatever we're able to build together going forward, whether it's just this group, whether it involves one or two or umpteen other groups together, that far outlasts my time on this earth. So we're interested in building that thriving legacy. We're open to other ideas. I think we heard that. We heard that through the discussion. We heard that through the commentary that was reinforced to us over and over again. We don't get the sense that people are absolutely stubborn about wanting to make it work only in one specific way, that there's an openness and a willingness to explore different ideas, again, whether that is in terms of location or partnerships or adapting the way that we do things given the landscape around us. Again, in doing so, though we did hear loud and clear that we stand firm on our values as a congregation as we potentially explore those new partnerships. And that includes things like our public, intentional, and explicit affirmation of being an affirming congregation. So that, we have certain table stakes that, if we were to go out and explore potential partnerships, we would never turn our backs on those things. And we heard that loud and clear from this group. And basically the last bullet point there, that as long as we continue forward as a group with the core values that we still hold, that quite honestly, selling the current property, potentially, with an eye towards, moving somewhere else, whether we sell part of it, whether we sell all of it, that nothing really is off the table as long as we hold firm and hold true to our values, to our mission, to connect, engage, transform, and to our values as a congregation. And so I guess to kind of put a wrap on what we heard, there was a very real possibility going into discussions like this that the people of St. Paul's come back and say, absolutely, we don't want to explore anything outside the walls of this building. We want to try and make it work here. We want to try and sand down that square peg so we can make it fit in that round hole. And we're most interested in wanting to sustain what we've always known for as long as we possibly can, whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 years. But that's not at all what we heard. We heard that there's a willingness, an openness, and a general acceptance to go out and explore potentially new ideas. And again, I come back to the two things, location and partnerships. Not that both of those are mutually exclusive or that one goes with the other, but those are generally speaking the two ideas that keep being thrown around. So we've given you kind of the verbatim of those big ideas and big themes that we saw coming out of the discussions. But as we said, as Harold alluded to, we don't want to just take this as the gospel and trudge forward with these ideas if this does not properly capture what you believe needs to be captured. And so I want you to take the next 10 to 15 minutes to discuss in your small groups, first and foremost, anything that you feel may have been missed here, anything that you feel may have been inaccurately represented, or anything that you feel does not belong as part of this kind of set of guiding principles moving forward. Okay, so I want you to take the next 10 to 15 minutes, review these again at your tables, discuss with each other, and then we'll come back together as a larger group, and we'll hear what anyone has to say about using this kind of as our set of guiding principles going forward. Okay? All right, good. No applause necessary. No applause. It's okay. Okay, so that was a great discussion. We've got Harold here to capture anything that we feel needs to be captured, but I'll just throw the question out, and we'll bring the mic to you so that we can hear what you have to say, and that way it'll capture on the recording. But after discussing the handouts, those, as I've referred to them, guiding principles, Is there anything that you talked about that you feel has been misrepresented, or anything additional that you believe needs to be captured as part of our continued work going forward? Anything that you want to call out or open up for discussion? Beautiful. I'm gonna give you one more opportunity, because I don't want to be accused of shutting this down too quickly. Going once, going twice. Okay, that's good news. Are there any comments then? Any additional comments about what has been presented to you? Ron. Okay.
Basically, we're in agreement with everything that's documented here. The only thing we wanted to do is reinforce that, and I think everybody knows that this needs to be done, but we need many more details before we decide which options to go forward with. That's all.
Of course, this is not meant to. We're not making a decision here today. That's certainly not what the intention of this is. We just want to make sure that as we continue to move forward, that we're doing so in the right direction. Directionally, these are the things that we'll continue to talk about and discuss and explore. Whether there are. Whether it comes back to the options that were presented last week or the week or 2 weeks prior to that, or whether new options present themselves as we continue to look ahead and do this work and have these discussions remains to be seen. But directionally, we know that at least for our group, initially, we kind of have the alignment to explore those options and bring back any of those options to the greater congregation. We would never make a decision without coming back again and again to this group. So thank you, Ron, for calling that out. Anyone else?
I didn't intend to say anything. I know what it was like when we first started. We met in 2 different places. And before we started small and we grew. And I think we think about ourselves as being an aging congregation, but when I see all those children this morning and see them all, what are going to be their needs as they grow? So, as far as I'm concerned, I feel as long as we stay together as a congregation, it doesn't matter where we are.
Unprompted applause is a show of support, so thank you for saying that. Anyone else? Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for having that discussion, for speaking up. I think Harold's next on the agenda. Yeah. Okay.
So, just to give you an idea of next steps. At this stage of the game, we don't have anything written down as next steps. So in a sort of a backhanded way of reassuring Ron and the rest of you, we're exploring. Just to let you know that before we can do anything, we have to have a plan that would come to you. And then it has to go to region. So nothing will happen until you approve it. So we're at a stage now where when we started this process, we were talking to TCF, and we still are. And now we have something going on with churches in Oakville, the United Churches in Oakville, and I'll say at this stage it might be a majority, but at least half have decided that we need to do something in Oakville around the fact there's 8 churches and not enough people to keep them all going. So that's changed from when we originally started. So as Jeff said, we started with these 3 options, and ever since we heard about the 3 options, we now have potentially more and more options because we have more people engaged in the discussion with us. And I think it's another 2 weeks, Deborah, I think, next week?
This week.
This week. It's in my calendar. I read my calendar on Monday to tell me what I'm doing on Tuesday. So we're getting together as churches, just the churches, a number of us, to talk about what they heard from TCF and what the landscape looked like and what we're prepared to do. So to say we have next steps would in a sense be lying to you because we haven't got that far. The steps keep changing on us. It's moving. It's a moving landscape at the moment, so we're moving with it and seeing where it'll go. And that's why we needed this sheet of what might look like just a lot of words, but to help us understand when we're in discussions with anybody about anything related to this congregation, we know in general where you want to go and what we're prepared to stand firm on and what we're not prepared to stand firm on. So that's where we are.
Is our church the starting point for this, or are other churches in this sort of discussion that we are in?
We won't tell you which ones aren't because I don't think it's fair to them. We don't know whether they're talking to their congregation the way that we are, or whether it's just their board got concerned and is exploring on their own. Some of the churches, probably the board is half the church, so not being facetious, that's the way it is. So I think we're ahead of. I don't think we're ahead of congregations. I think congregations are just like this. You've been thinking about this long before we brought it up, because I think it's a reality that everybody sees. But I think we're now leading to some extent the discussion about the United Church in Oakville and how it maintains itself in Oakville. So
I think without taking the mic back from Harold, I think the way that I think about it is that it's absolutely appropriate for us at this point to consider ourselves leaders in this space. And I think that that's something that we should feel good about and that we should be proud of as a collective. And our, the fact that we want to go out and engage other partners in that conversation is a positive thing. And so I think, you should give yourselves a pat on the back for that. And feel good about the fact that we are seen as leaders in this space going forward for the United Church here in Oakville.
Do I understand from what you were saying that the other churches, and we don't need to know who they are obviously, but are the other churches involved with TCF too? Or can you address that, please? Thank you.
yeah, we did have a meeting with TCF. They came and, in a sense, presented themselves to the churches that were there. And I think there was probably 5. So they have presented who they are and what they do. And this meeting, I think, is more about, okay, we heard them. What's your experience? I think it's going to be more of a family discussion as opposed with the outsider there. But yes, they are aware of TCF and they've had a chance to talk to them. So.
And there were 7 of the 8 churches at that meeting. At the next meeting, there's 5. But that doesn't mean they're committed, but there are 5 that want to be in the conversation.
Yeah. Which is, I think, pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too.
What does TCF stand for?
Oh, TCF is Trinity Center Foundation. We don't say Trinity because there's a Trinity Church and it creates even more confusion than their alphabetic TCF.
I would just like to take this time, I will not name names because I will forget them, but I think St. Paul's are so lucky to have this board and to bring all this and all the work behind the scenes. We know when we're involved in something how much time it takes talking and doing these up, but to have all these come together and to meet and bring this information to us. I know there's a lot of us that just sat back and knew it was coming, but there's some new people here that had no idea what was going on until you started these talks. And our views all changed. Nobody wants to lose St. Paul's, but we've all felt this is what we have to do as long as we're together. So thank you, committee, for all of
So thank you, but I think you need to know that the reason the board's here is that we believe in you and what we've created here. So it might seem like difficult work, but actually it's fun working with this group. Who is the group? Well, stand up, the board, stand up, stand up. So this is the board, in case you forgot. I'm the old guy in the group, so I have all these younger people to work with. Yes, Brooke?
How long have we got financially?
Well, if we don't sell the vans, my guess is we run out of money in about a year and a half or so. That's my guess. Maybe 3, maybe 4. It depends on how well the stewardship campaign goes. Ooh, we got that plug in. So send your money. Oh, I feel like a Baptist. Send your money. We're constantly, it's going lower and lower and lower. So if you think 3 to 4 years, that's probably the outside edge at the moment. Financially. As a group, we got forever, because you're all young. This conversation, no, it didn't start that way. We didn't actually take a look at how long we had. We just knew that it wasn't going the way it needs to go. If we wanted to continue for the next 40 or, let's see, Jeff, gotta see Jeff. Next 70 years. I promise not to be here in 70 years.
Timing matters. And some of the things I've learned about the United Church is I'm a trustee here, and we have all young trustees here. But I'm also a member of a regional group that sees churches that are looking to change and develop and sell and things like that. And sometimes they come to us for funds. So we look at their proposal, and there hasn't been many in the last few years, but the common thing is that the trustees are entrusted to preserve the church. They have to sign off to sell any of the properties, just like your trustees here have to do the same. The trustees tend to be very old, and they tend to be very prominent people in their congregations, and their job, in their mind, is to preserve the church, and they've preserved the church by meaning the property. Now, how to get through that with the timetables that all of the Oakville churches have, when you're dealing with probably a group of people who really believe that their role is to preserve those buildings, may be difficult. So I recommend to you that as being the leaders of going to these other congregations and saying, look, Fisher cut bait, make it a timetable to say dramatic things have to happen. They know it, but they just don't want to admit it. I've seen some congregations who made great renovation jobs only because somebody died and they said they have to do this now or the chance will pass. They had a big legacy fund. So whatever we do, I think the clock is ticking. And it is very important what you said. There may be 2, 3 years or 4 years, or whatever it is. But for those other congregations, they're going to be sitting on their hands as they have been sitting on their hands and as we have been sitting on our hands for a long time, hoping this would go away. And it's not going away. So I don't know how you accelerate things, but I encourage you to try that. And I spoke too much. I digress.
Well, the point about time is that if we were to decide to sell and move, That's probably a 5-year window between making the decision and finalizing. Now, you can make the agreement with the developer to find a way to keep you here and keep you going until then, but it's that long a period of time before you can finalize probably the end of the agreement, and you've had enough time to find out where you want to go. So yeah, I mean, every time we talk about it, we think 5 years, and we say we've got 1 to 2 years to actually make up our mind what we want to do. Because we've got that 1 to 2 years, and then you've got to decide where you're going, who you're going to be, where you're going to be, and how you're going to set it up in order to have it ready. So yeah, it's and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So, but it's refreshing to have that many United churches recognizing it and prepared to talk about it. Pre-pandemic, they didn't even want to come together to even, no, we're fine. We still got a little bit of that at some of the churches. I figure by the time a year is over, at least one of them will realize the wedding is over. You know, like realities here. So.
I think Rob, you had something?
No.
Okay.
So, any last comments from anybody other than that table? Great, and I really mean when I say thank you, because as Jeff said, it makes us feel like what we're doing is worthwhile, and that we want to keep doing it. One last thing. I know some of you have trouble sleeping, not at meetings, at night. So this is the, oh my goodness, it's 4 pages. The 4-page document of the verbatim of all the comments that were made, including the online ones that we captured. If you feel you'd like to read it all, there's at least one for everybody here. I will put it right there. And you can pick it up if you wish. It's great reading. And if you have any questions at any time, you now know who the board is. They love talking to you. Well, they love talking, as do I. So, closing prayer. They're fighting over it.
This has been a wonderful 3 weeks to be a part of. Yes, I know, Brad. There we go. I can hear myself now. To sit and discuss and debate. We were laughing that we should bring in the few cookies that were left, except everyone would fight over the cookies. But then, hey, somebody would have something to fight about because nobody's been fighting about anything. So for something like this, it's pretty amazing. Yes, Velma, we are sort of the first to this conversation in Oakville. In a dedicated, put time, energy, and money into this kind of way. And it did not come, Gloria, from the budget sheet. It came because we've been having fun. We've had a good time through this pandemic when it's been really hard. We've been online doing creative things and connected in ways that I think other congregations haven't. And so when you start to see some of the concerns and start to see some of the worries, we had energy to build on. And that's what drove this conversation. The money kind of came up second. It was like, ooh, okay, good timing. So I think that's a wonderful positive that I've really valued. So.
I will also say that this work is not going to be easy. Especially if we have 4 or 5 United churches that are going to be joining us in this conversation. We're going to be having to match our mission and our values. It means bringing in the region and talking about how this is all going to be following the manual, following United Church polity. But churches across Canada know that things are changing. United Church of Canada knows that new ideas and new things have to happen. So they are trying to open up and make things more flexible so that new life can happen. So So there is a lot of hope in that. Even if we have lots of seniors as trustees, there's also lots of other voices that are saying these things need to happen. Okay, Carolyn wants to sing. So we all know we are marching. We are marching in the light of God. Why don't we just sing together about that light that we're marching with? We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, oh, we are marching in the light of God. And God is with us as we march on this journey. Amen.